Here we go again. A local writer has made a credible connection between the San Francisco Giants and Juan Soto, at least the Giants having interest in Juan Soto. Is it even worth getting the tiniest bit of hope up?
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And coming up on today's show, first a little housekeeping. I missed almost all of this week. I don't want to get too into it, but dealing with a medical issue, really happy to be able to be with you today. But if shows are missed moving forward, that's what's going on. So anyway, jumping right into it, here we go again. Like I said, there's been what I would call credible connection between, I wouldn't say connection between the Giants and Juan Soto, but connection between a connection that the Giants intend to pursue Soto, or a report, I should say, that the Giants do in fact intend to pursue Juan Soto. So yes, in fact, here we go again. Like, they would be on the one hand, like, they would just be foolish not to. Like, he makes perfect sense in every sense of the word. The guy is 25 years old. He's going to turn 26 in a week. So he'll play all of year one of a contract at age 26. It's Bryce Harper all over again. That was what was so appealing about Bryce Harper at the time. And the Giants went, in hindsight, they should have gone a little more all in to try to get Harper. And they were in a worse position as an organization at the time than they are now. Now they have much more money kind of off the books. They don't have a lot of big contracts at all. And so it would be much easier to manage. It wouldn't mess them up from a luxury tax perspective or anything like that. So if you could get the guy, it would just be a huge thing, and it wouldn't hamstring them at all. And it's probably going to end up being, Bryce Harper, I think he got 13 years ultimately, and I wouldn't be surprised if Soto gets something like 15 years, just to maximize the dollar amount. And if you make it like $45 million a year or so, which is kind of what you're looking at when you look at the very best players in the game. Ohtani's contract came out to after, I think it was the Players Association took into account all the deferrals and all that. Even though it's a $700 million contract for Ohtani, the Players Association, or I think the league, officially the league even considers it a $46 million per year contract, not 70, because it is structured in a crazy way. $2 million 10 years, and then $680 million over the next 10. So that's wild. But anyway, it's Shayna Rubin of the San Francisco Chronicle who has this article from October 13th. And so I've been out. This was something I wanted to talk about several days ago, but wasn't able to do that. And the title of the article is, "Can Buster Posey Lure a Superstar to Giants? Juan Soto Pursuit Will Be a Test." And then she says, once the World Series settles, the end of October, early or beginning of November, we're getting close to the World Series being, set. And so this is all going to, start soon. The the offseason that the Giants will actually be involved in, or like the Giants getting re-involved in being able to do anything. One of the best players in the game is available for the taking, as she writes. So Juan Soto, she says it's another opportunity to snag someone who could refurbish the franchise's identity and bring the star power it sorely lacks. They've whiffed on other free agent pursuits. Obviously, they did get Correa to agree to a deal before they backed out of it because of medicals. But what we're going to get to here is, first of all, there's a little nugget in here that I don't know that we've really seen. Like, this is just casually mentioned. She says the Giants tried to trade for Soto while he was with the San Diego Padres in 2013. That we did have an inkling of. Even Farhan Zaidi said so. But Shayna Rubin says here, but general manager AJ Preller preferred not to send the star within the National League West. So that's the first I've heard that had anything to do with it. So for all we know, the Giants did put together a package that otherwise the Padres would have accepted, or a package that would have beat what the Nationals offered. I doubt it. I mean, it was a really good package that the Nationals put together, really good. But anyway, that's interesting information. But here's the nugget. She says the Giants are expected to make a run for Soto, and they should. He is one of baseball's best hitters, ranking among the best statistically in the American League. 419 on base, 989 OPS, were second best this season. Expected average, weighted average, slugging percentages are in the top 1 percentile, 25 years old, megastar charisma. And there's even more like tangible stuff in here, and I'm just trying to find it exactly. She also mentions that wearing thin on ownership was Zaidi's propensity to wait out the free agency period to sign players on short-term deals, including third baseman Matt Chapman and Blake Snell last year. And then she says Posey's role in extending Chapman with a 6-year, $151 million deal in September was the first sign that the Giants are looking to solidify their identity through long-term commitments. And she says not only would Soto draw fan intrigue, but at age 25, he could meet a long-term goal to grow a younger, more athletic team that can compete for years to come. From the Giants' perspective, the fit is obvious, but competition for his services will be fierce. Here we go. This is the piece. Quote, there's a sliver of hope internally that Soto might not want to be second fiddle to Yankee superstar and likely MVP Aaron Judge, and that he may be lured to a team like the Giants with an opportunity to be the face of the franchise. End quote. So that really, really stood out to me. I mean, she's not just hypothesizing here. She goes internally. There's a sliver of hope internally. So it's a source here. And let's be clear, she's calling it a sliver of hope, not a giant wedge of hope. But nonetheless, that's intriguing, that he may not want to be second fiddle anywhere. So that would, you look at all these big market teams, the Dodgers, obviously, he'd be like fourth fiddle. I mean, he actually third fiddle behind maybe Ohtani and Betts, definitely Ohtani. The Yankees, you've got Lindor. And so it's to say that he may be lured to a team like the Giants with an opportunity to be the face of the franchise. You even think about the Padres and Machado and Tatis. And so, there aren't that many teams that can fork over $500 million or whatever it's going to take to land Juan Soto, but the Giants are, in fact, one of them. And they have tried to get players like this, like pretty much every offseason since 2019. Maybe they took a year or two off, which they claim had to do with the pandemic, influencing their desire to spend or their appetite for spending. But nonetheless, here we go again, right? And I know a lot of you just don't even want to go there, but hey, Shayna Rubin, legit reporter, basically like sliver of hope internally about Soto. So there you have it. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just passing along information here. So coming up in just a minute, we are going to get into the Giants having no. First, we're going to get into they have a new pitching coach. Brian Price stepping down after one season, and the Giants have already made a move to replace him. We'll get into all of that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by Hims. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of simple questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, here we go. We are going to get into the fact that the Giants have a new pitching coach, Brian Price, stepping down after just one season in San Francisco. Thanks again for making Locked on Giants your first listen every day. And again, apologies for not being able to be every day the last couple of weeks. I was sick last week and dealing with something else this week. Doing our best moving forward, but glad to be able to be with you today. So Brian Price out and JP Martinez in. And just today, the Giants announced this officially. Otherwise, it was just a report by Susan Slusser. But the Giants sent out a press release today that said the San Francisco Giants have announced that JP Martinez has been promoted to pitching coach in place of Brian Price, who stepped down after one season in the role. Martinez, who's 42 years old, has served as the team's assistant pitching coach for the past 4 seasons after joining the Giants in 2021. In his time with the pitching group, Giants pitchers have the 4th lowest ERA in the National League at 3.80. Prior to joining the Giants, Martinez spent 6 seasons with the Minnesota Twins in several roles, most recently as the club's assistant pitching coordinator. End quote. So I am happy about this, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason I'm happy about this is that they're not just reverting. It's one of the first kind of signs of what a Buster Posey led front office is going to behave like. And what's important to note about JP Martinez is that he was brought in by Gabe Kapler, right? He was and Buster Posey did play when JP Martinez was a coach. So Buster Posey is familiar with him, and significantly, it's like they're not by promoting JP Martinez, not just keeping him, but promoting him to pitching coach. They are promoting someone who is undoubtedly a believer in and someone who can implement modern, sabermetric kind of pitching analysis and not just analysis, but like mechanical changes and and just getting the most out of pitchers in essence. Like all the stuff they do these days to help pitchers, refine their repertoires, make their pitches as effective and good as possible, help them determine what mix of pitches is best, maybe add a pitch, maybe get rid of a pitch altogether, versus just kind of going external and hiring, Dave Righetti out of retirement. That would be like concerning to me because the game has changed a lot in the last 10 years, a lot. And, JP Martinez, not to be ageist at all, but, just 42 years old, that's pretty young. And he's been with the team already for, 21, 22, 23, 4 years. So he was in, his 30s, certainly, when he joined the Giants. And, it'll be interesting to see what kind of authority he has to fill out basically the role that he's departing, which is assistant pitching coach. One of our loyal listeners, Ariel B, asked Susan Slusser on Twitter, do you think they might hire a new assistant pitching coach, either promote someone from within or get someone from outside? And Susan Slusser, who had reported that the Giants were going to promote JP Martinez to the role of pitching coach, she said they will hire someone, and I would certainly think Vogelsong would be a good candidate. So, Vogelsong, I don't know exactly what his philosophies are and what his familiarity is with kind of the way that modern teams approach pitching. One thing that was not so bad under the Farhan Zaidi-led regime was their pitching for the most part. They got, the development of Logan Webb stands out. The development of Kevin Gausman stands out. The excellent season of Carlos Rodon stands out. The first years they got out of guys like Anthony DeSclafani and Alex Wood. I know those guys took steps backwards moving forward, but they've done some impressive things from a pitching standpoint. And so it's nice to see they're not just totally moving away from some of the guys that played a role in that. And again, a coach who was hired by Gabe Kapler getting promoted to such an important coaching role, I think is significant for sure. So Brian Price leaves after one season, and basically Andrew Baggerly wrote a piece on this and just said, Brian Price just said that he couldn't pass up the opportunity. He said the chance was too great to pass up. This is a direct quote from a Baggerly article in The Athletic. Price said, but I also knew going in that it would be for the short term, a year or two. Baggerly says Price, a San Francisco native who grew up in Mill Valley and pitched at Cal, said this in a phone interview. Price said it was a chance to get to work with a dear friend again in Bob Melvin in the city in which you were born. That was a brass ring I had to grab, and I'm really glad I did. I hoped I could make a positive impact on the pitchers there. I felt bad about leaving in Philadelphia and still do. I think he left during COVID or after. I forget exactly the circumstances. He says, so I wanted to go year by year and see how it goes. After 40 years in the professional game, he talks about being away from family and all that. He did live. He left Philadelphia after 2020. And anyway, he's leaving. He mentioned Buster Posey on his way out. He said of Posey, quote, he's a San Francisco icon. He's a bright guy, and he's a connector of people. He has a lot going for him. Give him some grace to get into the position and surround himself with people. There's a typo. People that will support what he wants to do and also challenge him. And having a guy like Bob Melvin in the manager seat is a huge plus. He's someone who can manage the clubhouse and work collectively to put the best players and best lineups on the field on a regular basis. So thank you for your service, Brian Price, as he rides off into the sunset. It was a short stint, and, the team didn't do very well. They didn't pitch very well. And so another reason, I don't know how much that had to do with Brian Price in particular, but elevating someone who's kind of more of the new school variety in JP Martinez in a coaching role, I think is important, because otherwise and Posey said this during his introductory press conference. He said analytics are here to stay, because someone asked him, like, are you going to incorporate analytics? Like, and he's like, duh, they're here to stay. Like, and he said, if you ignore them, you're going to fall seriously behind. And I could not agree more. Could the game use more of a human touch? Sure. Yes. And Posey certainly represents that to a large degree, stepping in that direction. But at the same time, you've got to, stay modernized with, like, the stuff teams are doing these days is like, you wouldn't believe it if you don't know anything about it. Like, you wouldn't believe the kind of technology and analysis and all that teams are doing. And it's beyond, it's like whatever's in the public sphere, apparently they're like, teams are like 2 to 3 years ahead of that or something. So we don't even know what's going on these days. So you need guys who are at the forefront of that to be preferably also in your hitting group, with modern hitting techniques as well. Not going backwards and just saying, shorten up, go the other way, drop down a bunt. Like, that's not, in my opinion, where the direction they need to go either. The effect of a Donnie Ecker seemed to be enormous when he was here, for example. And so, yeah, that's just like, you can have that human touch, but when it comes to just getting the most out of your players and helping them take in that information and get it presented to them in a digestible way and giving, not overwhelming them, that is so important. And the Giants have made a really good effort at that. And a lot of players speak to that the Giants have been really good at that. They provide all the information you could ever need, but not too much. And if you're the type who just doesn't want it, they don't push it, down your throat. And so, I don't know, I assume JP Martinez checks those boxes because of this promotion, and because ultimately Buster Posey has the say here, and he kind of okayed this, if not pushed for it. I don't exactly know how it went down, but the fact that it happened is an indication of something for sure, and I think a good move for the Giants. So coming up next, we're going to switch gears and get into how the Giants have not one, not two, but 3 Gold Glove finalists. So we'll talk about each of them and what their chances are of winning in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the action in over 30 states, including the great state of California. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds. Totally, I can vouch for that. I played a ton this baseball season. And turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. And of course, the MLB postseason is going on as well. And so check that out. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, here we go. We're going to get into, the Giants have 3 Gold Glove finalists, and they all have, in my opinion, a pretty good argument to be made on their behalf for winning the award, or at least, being in serious consideration. And to be a finalist, you are under serious consideration. Thanks again for making Locked on Giants your first listen every day. So the finalists are Patrick Bailey, Matt Chapman, and Mike Yastrzemski in order of their, numeric position on the field. So, I just was checking out Baseball Savant, which has kind of this new school, like advanced defensive analysis that's hopefully easier for people to understand than I think people have gotten used to, like defensive runs saved. And definitely, I don't think ultimate zone rating ever got into the public vernacular very well, but outs above average, I think you're hearing that, seeing that all the time. And that one, what I like about it is that it's completely objective, and it's using the Hawkeye system that tracks every movement and pitch and swing and ball flight on the field with unbelievable, like, military grade precision. And that's what's being used to see that little automated strike zone you see on TV. When you see like a replay and it shows the trajectory of the ball, when you see the wind patterns, all of that is being kind of that's all Hawkeye. And it's also the thing they use in tennis, like when you see the in or out on like a replay in tennis, and they can zoom in super, super close and see, that's Hawkeye. And so they use this system to evaluate defense now. And it's basically like, where did you start? Where did the ball end up? And how much time did you have to get there? And how often does the average fielder make that play? And how often did you make it? It's like that simple. What is the expected success rate? And what was your actual success rate over a big sample of plays that you have the opportunity to make? So one thing to note, they also can translate this to, they've been able to calculate the run value of all these different players defensively. And the number one player in terms of fielding run value in Major League Baseball this season by a mile was Patrick Bailey, ahead of Dalton Varsho, who we all can hopefully remember as an elite defender in the outfield when he was with the Diamondbacks, now with the Blue Jays. But Bailey, 5 runs ahead of Dalton Varsho for first place on the fielding run value list, according to Baseball Savant. So they don't do outs above average for catchers. You kind of have to separately look at framing and throwing and blocking. And for Bailey, he was at 0 for blocking. So people complain about his blocking, and I'm always saying, yeah, but the framing and the throwing. And also on Baseball Savant, they can figure out when a base is basically stolen on a pitcher versus when it's stolen on a catcher, because it's not fair to just put it on the catcher, because if the pitcher is really slow to home or allows a big, huge lead or both, then the catcher could literally have no shot, no matter how good they are, based on just the limits of human ability. And so that's factored in here. And so for Bailey, 0 runs provided with his blocking, but 6 runs saved with his throwing, and 16 runs with his framing. So that 16 number is the most in baseball. So you can see that throwing has the biggest effect. The biggest number framing has the biggest effect. The biggest number we see from throwing is a 6, and it's Bailey and Will Smith tied. And the biggest number we see from framing is 16. So you can see that it's almost, the best framer is adding like 3 times the runs than the best thrower. Like framing adds 3 times the runs if you're the best at it than if you're the best at throwing. And so that's why framing is so important, and I'm beating that drum all the time. And Bailey's the best at it, and that's why he leads all catchers in this category, and he certainly leads all defensive players in the game in this metric, fielding run value, on StatCast, via StatCast, on the website baseballsavant.com. So to me, Bailey is like a clear, heavy favorite to win. I don't know that he will, but he should. I think he, gets underappreciated. His bat fell off in a big way for the second season in a row, and for whatever reason, hitting comes into play when we're talking about Gold Gloves, which it obviously should not. But we'll see. I actually don't have the other finalists pulled up. I apologize. I'm trying to get them quickly pulled up. I do have them pulled up here. So Will Smith, who does not grade out as a good framer, and Gabriel Moreno of the D-backs. So 3 in the National League West here are your finalists at the catcher position. Moreno, in terms of this metric here, is just nowhere to be seen. I think he missed a lot of time as well. So this should easily go to Patrick Bailey. And if it doesn't, we riot. We won't. But anyway, and then simple outs above average we'll look at to look at third base and right field. And so for third baseman, I should also make it just National League. I don't know that it lets me do that, but I can do it kind of just by looking. So Joey Ortiz and Matt Chapman were tied at 11 outs above average and 8 runs prevented. And Nolan Arenado had 9 outs above average and 7 runs prevented with his defense. So the finalists at third base are Nolan Arenado, Ryan McMahon, and Matt Chapman. So Ryan McMahon came in with 7 outs above average and 5 runs prevented. So I should be looking at defensive runs saved as well, just to kind of counterbalance and see if there's any big discrepancies. I know Matt Chapman was a defensive run saved darling. I think he may have led all players at all positions. He was something like that. And that's why his Baseball Reference using defensive runs saved in its WAR calculation. That's why Chapman came in as the second most valuable player in the National League behind Shohei Ohtani. It had a lot to do with his defensive run save number. So I would not be surprised at all if Chapman wins and Patrick Bailey wins. So now let's move on to right field, where we will find that Mike Yastrzemski is at -2. I don't know if, because he plays center as well. And so that actually they can kind of list this in a weird way. So I'm going to see where he ranked actually just as a right fielder in this category. He came in at, where is it? Oh, that's correct. -2, not defensive run saved, outs above average in right field. And so this is one, objectively speaking, where I'm not going to say that he should win it. Just based on outs above average, I should look at defensive run saved as well. But the other finalists, just for what it's worth, in right field are Sal Frelick and Jake McCarthy. So that's some tough competition. Frelick ranked number 1 as a right fielder with 7 outs above average. And Jake McCarthy ranked, it's listing their wrong positions here. So I'm a little bit confused as to how they're listing this. But regardless, I don't think Yastrzemski wins over those two. I think Frelick probably wins based on this. I should, again, look at defensive run save, but we're running out of time. But anyway, 3 finalists is a good thing, and Yaz is good out there. These are best not generally taken in one season samples. My understanding is kind of 3-year samples of defensive metrics like this, and kind of averaging them is the best way to go. And Yaz has done better in previous seasons, so I don't buy Yaz being below average defensively, just for what it's worth. But that's what it says for this year, according to this one source being the Hawkeye system and StatCast. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. And let's see, we've got one more thing to let you know. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every aspect of the playoff picture. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again on Monday, hopefully. Thank you again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.